Hi folks, my name's Jem, I'm the Crazy Pigeon Lady, and it's my mission to entertain, educate and inspire you with all things pigeon and dove. This time I am with you for a book review, which I am doing today in honour of Pigeon Day, the 13th of June, which is the anniversary of the death of Cher Ami, a famous World War I homing pigeon who died on the 13th of June 1919. This book, Cher Ami Major Whittlesey, was authored by Kathleen Rooney and published in 2020 and tells the story of the famous World War I pigeon Cher Ami, who saved the lost battalion of the US Army in the Meuse-Argonne offensive in France, which took place in 1918. This book is a novel rather than being a historical account, so it is a work of fiction, but it is based on true events. And there's a considerable amount of historical detail in here, and whilst I'm not a historian nor intimately familiar with all of the details of this particular military campaign, it does come across as being rather well researched and does cite in the back of the book a number of sources written by historians who have produced accounts based on evidence from the time. This is a nicely written book. I enjoyed it. The author has a nice, very readable style, and it provides enough level of detail to give you a sense of the true realities of what life for soldiers would have been like in World War I, but without giving so much detail that it becomes a truly harrowing read. So it was quite enjoyable and quite accessible to get an insight into battle in World War I. I do have one criticism of this novel, which is that the structure of it, and my criticism is not of the structure, is to alternate the chapters between the voice of Cher Ami speaking from beyond the grave, so to speak, and that of Major Charles Whittlesey, and the chapters alternate between the two, and their narratives interweave together to tell the story. But my criticism is that the voice, or the tone of the voice of the characters, isn't sufficiently distinguished enough in my mind to give them both a distinct character. They both have a similar sort of feel and a similar sort of turn of phrase and language, and I think perhaps if there could have been a little bit more difference there, the voices might have been more distinct. But it is a very innovative way of telling the story, of alternating these chapters, providing the perspective of the pigeon and the perspective of the man on the same events, and speaking in reflection as if they were ghosts beyond the grave, and I think that's a really interesting construct and a way to tell the story. One other minor jarring detail is that question of Cher Ami's gender. So throughout this book, which as I mentioned before was published in 2020, Cher Ami is referred to as a she. And Cher Ami's gender has been something that's been misdescribed at various points in history, and there's been conflicting accounts based on evidence of time about whether Cher Ami was indeed a he or a she. And there are some contradictions in the records as to whether Cher Ami was a cockbird or a henbird. It's my understanding that the presumption of Cher Ami being a she is based on a supposed account of the taxidermist who actually stuffed Cher Ami's body for display in the Smithsonian Museum. However, the Smithsonian Museum in 2021 actually conducted a DNA analysis which provided conclusive proof of Cher Ami's gender, and Cher Ami turned out to be a male, a cockbird after all. And having known that, and knowing as you know me, I am very precise about my facts about pigeons, that was a little detail that I found a little jarring throughout the book. But I will forgive Kathleen for that, because of course she did not know that at the time. So in summary, this is a nicely written book, very readable, interesting construct. It makes a story about the war quite accessible, even if you're not into war stories or history. It definitely made it a more enjoyable read for me. It provides a modern perspective on the war, and of course in the context at the time, the war was spoken about in terms of heroicism and that sort of thing, because it was very important for propaganda reasons to make sure that the war was viewed positively by the public as being a necessary endeavour. This provides a little bit more of a modern perspective on the war without directly pushing it into the reader's face, so to speak. So it addresses topics like the after effects of the war and the folly of command and PTSD and then the fallout of the mental health of the participants in the war, which of course was something would not have been spoken about at the time. It's a shame that a key detail on Cher Ami's gender is contradicted, but of course that is forgivable given what was known at the time. But it remained an enjoyable read about a heroic bird and a heroic story. So I would encourage you to give it a go. It is definitely a worthwhile read. Please check out my other video for Pigeon Day, which I've put out, which is about the history of Cher Ami, and please do watch that alongside this one so you can get an insight into the real history behind this bird. Thanks for watching. I hope that's been useful. I look forward to seeing you again. Please remember to like, share, subscribe, touch the little notification bell, and you can hear about my next Crazy Pigeon Lady video, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Bye bye.